Live. Does it say something about meeting is now streaming live?
It does.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
On
it's
Live.
YouTube, it
something
says, yeah, live on YouTube.
I've got a loading bar. Oh my God.
Hooray.
It's so exciting. It's doing something.
Yes.
Whoa. I've got a load.
Oh yeah, that's the lag, I guess.
Okay, so there's the link. How do I get this link to you? I'll put it in this chat over here. And we'll also need to try to keep an eye on the YouTube chat. Somebody's already watching it.
Oh wow.
It's quick.
I wonder if it counts me as watching. Link to the chat live. See if I can get this posted on Twitter. Maybe do it on Facebook, and then we'll just start the show. So if you're just tuning in, folks, congratulations on being punctual. You see what it gets you.
You have the pleasure of watching me eat a bagel very quickly.
Chat live now streaming. Okay. So did y'all get that link?
Mm-hmm.
Does it seem to be working?
Seems to be. Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Cool.
Trying out the chat there. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Oh man. Any tips on how to guard my privacy? I feel like
I probably should have just typed my password for all to see.
Julia, is that a crimson diamond shower curtain you have behind you?
It's the thing I schlepped to Adventure X. It's
Right.
I paid for it. I'm gonna get as much use of it as possible.
You should make a shower curtain. It would be thematically appropriate.
You know, I need it. I'm in the market for a shower curtain.
Oh.
I just happened to, for real.
They have them on Society 6, but I don't think I have any Crimson Diamond themed ones, unfortunately.
All right, folks. Well, let's get this show started here. Hopefully, you know me. Been doing so many course videos, though, that I'm not even sure who I am anymore. But I'm Matt Barton, and we've got here, let's see why. I'm trying to share the screen. I think I've locked it somehow. Bear with me for a second. What are you guys seeing on your screen? See Julia, or just whoever's talking?
I
see
just see
Francisco
you right
now.
And I see Julia now.
Okay, so that's automatically switching. Okay. New software, folks. Sorry about the confusion. Anyway, I'm joined here by Julia Minimata. I had her on earlier to talk about the Crimson Diamond. Hopefully we'll hear some more about that project today. Next to her, at least on my screen, we've got Mat Bradley Tschirgi, old friend of mine. Oh, man, how far do we go back anyway?
I met you, Matt Barton, writing for Armchair Arcade, and that was back in, I think, 2003 or 2004. So a little bit
pre-internet
over
days.
15, 16 years, yeah. Not quite the dial-up days, but close enough.
Yeah, you used to drive a Model T to that website. And then we got Francisco González on the far right.
Hello.
And he's doing a game called Rosewater. And I just wanted to show you their projects quickly if I can make this magic happen. And then get you folks to talk about these. Okay, why don't we, let's see, so let's keep it in the right order. So is the Crimson Diamond showing?
Yes.
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 All right, Julia, for those who might just now be hearing about this, what are we looking at here?
Okay, so this is a good one. This is the tutorial room for the Crimson Diamond. The Crimson Diamond is an EGA text parser adventure game that I'm making with Adventure Game Studio. And the reason this exists is because I realized that not a lot of people are familiar with text parser adventure games anymore of this style. So I wanted to build something really simple and straightforward so people could learn step by step some common parser commands and basically how to navigate through the game. I did this because I was showing this at some places and I hadn't done that. And I I'd kind of forgotten that it's been 30 years since the last one of these came out. So I figured this would probably be a good thing for me to introduce to the game. So hopefully it's useful to people, and hopefully it gets them better acquainted and more comfortable with playing.
That's a lot of fun. Just looking back, I remember playing it.
Oh yes, that's right. Did you find any bugs you could help me with?
That's what you want to hear about, right? You give your heart and your soul to somebody, and you're like, "Yeah, tell me what's wrong with it." First thing.
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword because you don't, of course, you want it to be perfect, but it's just never going to be perfect. I just want it to be better, and maybe not perfect, but as close as I can be.
Not to jump the gun here, but I just read a tweet by a friend, Cisco, talking about that very thing, right?
Oh, yes.
Hating your own work. What prompted that anyway, Francisco?
I don't know. It just kind of popped into my head this morning. I don't know why. I guess because you know what it is. Yesterday I was writing. I was writing some scenes and some dialogue for my game, and normally, like when I'm staring at a blank page, I'm just like, oh God, how am I going to make this good? And I have to do a few passes before I'm happy with it. And I was writing this one scene, and I was really I was pleased with what I was able to come up with. And I was like, oh no, I like it. But then I was like, that shouldn't be a bad thing. And then I realized that, I'm not the only person. I know plenty of creative people who are like, oh, I hate my work. And it's like, you don't have to hate your work all the time. You can allow yourself the indulgence of, being proud of something every now and then. So I figured, let me put that out there in the world. We need more positivity on Twitter. I like tweeting nice things.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I mean, look at this game here, and like I can appreciate how much work goes into these graphics, and
it's
like
beautiful.
every pixel, and like the thing about this game that I just love so much is just all of the details she puts in. And you could tell what everything is too.
Julia got an amazing compliment.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You should tell the story about the party where you met.
Yes. So I over PAX West, we were at a party, and I met Doug Herring, and Doug Herring is the artist for The Colonel's Bequest, which is sort of my touchstone for this style of game. It was the one I looked at the most, and super duper inspirational. And I met him
over there somewhere. It's got a whole bunch of cool stuff inside.
Mine's not around here, but yeah, I did actually get him to sign my box, the big box of The Colonel's Bequest. I know. And what was great, I got to meet him and talk to him, and he said that, for him, I say this often, I say for those guys, they are creative people, and they make things, and he's made things in the intervening years since that game, so many things, hundreds of things. But for us, when we look at that game, we it's like live in our minds. We're still thinking about it to this day. So for us, we remember it better sometimes than the actual artists. And when I met him, he looked at the screens. He had seen the screens before, and he said that it looked like something he almost thought if he had made them, or he couldn't remember if he had or not. And that was a super high compliment.
That is cool. Now, how much did he charge you to sign that box? My guess he didn't charge you, right?
No, he did not. But now you got me.
See, that's the difference there. That's the difference. Yeah. That's why I like games. You get signed stuff. You don't have to pay somebody $300 for a photo. They're all humble, even like
they're lovely.
The ones that you're like, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
They're like, who are you, man? Quit being weird.
Well, you've talked to so many people on Mat Chat, and I'm just blown away by who you get. And they're just nice, down to earth. They have great stories, and they're just super humble, and that's really inspiring too.
I've had very few that were like, yes, I'm too good to be on your show. Actually, I haven't had anybody like that. All right. So when is this? We're still in the demo. Got the free demo there. Planned release date.
Yes.
Is when it's ready.
Yeah.
That's what 3D Rome's used to say.
I'm hoping this year, but I no guarantees when it's ready. And people tell me, not to rush and try to make it good. So that's what I'm going to do. Right now.
Over here. Wow.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the first one was that was in Ubisoft Toronto had something called Indie Series, and I was one of the 10 finalists that got to pitch my game to them. So it was a panel of Ubisoft people and a National Bank person, and that was a really really cool experience. I'd never pitched anything to anybody, and my first one was 12 people in a conference room at Ubisoft in Toronto here, and it was educational because I had to think of my game in a way I hadn't thought before, which is this actually going to make money? Because my first initial inspiration and approach was as a hobby project, and I didn't ever think about, is this going to make money? Can this make money? But that's what they want to know about, and so I had to look at it from that perspective, and that was kind of eye-opening for me. And it kind of made me look at other adventure games to see, you know, business-wise, does it make sense, and what other examples are there in the industry. And I think, as Francisco would probably agree with me, is that this style of game is now much simpler to build than they were decades ago. And it's easy to do them with small teams, with a smaller budget, smaller scope. And you can carve out a living as a small business owner in this way. And I think Dave Gilbert as well. We were just on a panel, me, Dave, and Francisco at PAX East. And a lot of it we were talking about was the future of adventure games. What's next for adventure games? And that's kind of been top of my mind. Because I do want to continue to do this, and I want to do it for a living. And that business perspective was something where I thought, you know, this is possible. And I know it's possible because Francisco's been doing it for years.
Don't use me as a as a guiding point, please.
Yeah, well, according to Howard Sherman, text adventures are still making big bank.
True.
You were in the pitch, Francisco. I had Lamplight City screenshots.
Oh, I'm flattered.
Well, let's flip over then. Talk about Rosewater.
Yeah.
Can you guys see the?
Yep.
I
see it.
If I can get the movie to play.
Yeah.
Whoa, probably not.
Ooh.
It probably didn't work, huh?
No, it's I saw it and then it
was it full screen?
But it was full screen for a second.
Zoom. All right.
So Rosewater is a Western point and click adventure. It's set in an alternate 19th century. It's the same world as the game that I released previously called Lamplight City. And it's basically an adventure story about a posse who goes off on a treasure hunt to find a missing man's fortune, and hijinks ensue. And yeah, I don't know. I've been talking about it, and I'm so brain fried that I don't know what the talking points are anymore. It's not a comedy. It's rare that there's a Western adventure game that's not a comedy. I can't think of too many off the top of my head. So hopefully that'll be a draw for some people who like a more adventurous type Western. And even though it has steampunk elements, there are no giant mechanical spiders. I want to make that very clear. And
mechanical spiders.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that's a turn off for anyone, but there are no mechanical spiders. And yeah, basically the idea is that, you know, you're traveling along with these people, and I'm trying out a little thing where, much like the first season of Telltale's The Walking Dead, how you treat and interact with your companions affects how they react to you, and, you know, different parts of the story or different things you'll see depend on your relationships with them. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I was trying to think, what's that Sierra Western game, like Gold Rush, I think, or is that?
Oh yeah, well,
am I making that up, or that's the?
No, there was definitely Gold Rush was definitely a Sierra game. And I guess, yeah, in a lot of ways it was a Western. It was a lot more like Oregon Trail, the adventure game. Yeah. But they made Freddy Farkas, Frontier Pharmacist.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, they made their comedy adventure game. Gold Rush was definitely a drama. A lot of dramatic deaths in that one.
You know what? This aesthetic kind of reminds me a little bit of It Came from the Desert.
Oh, nice. I've never actually played that one.
Never seen that one.
Yeah.
It's with the giant ants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's got giant ants.
Maybe I should have giant mechanical ants.
Mm.
That's a
Yeah, this
thought.
is. I remember you were saying something about the facial expressions were going to be
Oh yeah. So
really like you're trying to get to a new level of emotional content.
emotion. No, this is the highest resolution game I've made. I mean, Lamplight City was a whopping 640 by 400. And
Is that one on Steam?
yeah, it is.
Let me take a look at that just
there
to
you go.
compare.
Yeah. But before that, the previous games I did were both 320 by 200, so like super low resolution.
Wow.
Your classic Sierra style resolution. So Rosewater is 720p. So I figured in the in the lower resolution, there's not as much detail in the characters, and you kind of have to rely on like the character portraits and for the close-ups and stuff. This one, the sprites are big enough that I can actually, forego the character portraits and just have the sprites do things. So it's a little bit more dynamic in that when they're talking to each other, like their facial expressions might change subtly, but the best thing is that they can like wave their arms around or like put their hands on their hips and cross their arms, and it just feels more natural that way. So that's been fun, and that's totally because it's a higher resolution. So I mean, you could do that in lower resolution, but I feel like now is the time. Oh yeah, I linked them together because I'm like, how are people gonna find these two games in this alternate world?
Where's the
Rosewater would be under upcoming releases there.
oh.
That's just Steam's weird way of doing that.
Yeah, these are games. I mean, don't you want to? When I first saw this, I was like, man, is this Last Express?
I am rotoscoping. I do rotoscope my animations, so I have a lot to owe to the Last Express.
Man, that just something about this just gets me tingling.
Well, that's
good.
That's good.
Coming 2021. Oh, is this another one of those done when it's done?
Yeah. I mean, I'm aiming for April or May of 2021, but I'm getting there.
I think that's one of the best reasons to be doing this for yourself, right? Instead of working for one of these companies that just forces you to put something out before it's ready, because we all know what happens when a game is rushed out.
Mm-hmm.
A thrilling treasure hunt with 5 travel companions. Yeah, fully rotoscoped.
Yeah.
Yes, that's 720p.
Yeah, shocking. Pixel art at 720p.
Oh, and I even forgot about this. I don't have the sound on, but you've got these professional voice actors.
Yeah, that'll come later.
50.
I have to write the game first.
Wow, 50
characters, not actors. We had 70 speaking roles in Lamplight City divided amongst 21 actors. So I was estimating it's probably about the same.
Julia wasn't kidding about there being money to be made here.
Yeah.
There's resources. I mean, we're not talking about some rinky-dink little.
I will say that I feel like I'm kind of well, Julia too.
This is commercial. Both of these games to me look, I mean, completely commercial quality.
Yeah, I mean the advantage that developers like Julia and I have are that we're basically doing pretty much everything, so we don't have to worry about paying a team, so production costs are low. So ideally, even if it doesn't do great right away, it's not like we sank a whole ton of money into this stuff and now it's not breaking even anytime soon.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just the power of this. These are both the Venture Game Studio
Yes.
games. I mean, that's just amazing to me what one person can do. Well, Matt, you're next. You want to comment on one of these games before we jump into your book? Or?
Yeah, I think with the Rosewater, the graphics on that, something about the shading reminds me a bit of a LucasArts first-person shooter called Outlaws. That was a sort of cowboy themed. It used the same engine they developed for, I think, Dark Forces 1, and had.
What was it called, Matt?
Outlaws.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
I don't think it's.
There it is. Yeah, the third one down. Outlaws and Handful of Missions, I guess, was the expansion pack.
Hmm.
Ah,
So it specifically the cutscenes in it had this animation, and it had this neat kind of Ennio Morricone music from the old westerns.
ah.
That was
Is that the music that's in those Clint Eastwood movies?
yes, yep, for a few dollars more and all that stuff. And we have some people we have some people in the chat asking if we're actually reading the chat. I'm noticing on YouTube. And
what are they saying over there?
let's see, Sarah Kelly says, rotoscoping makes me think of the animated Lord of the Rings. That's the late 70s Ralph Bakshi.
Good God, there's a whole bunch of chats.
There is, yeah.
Oh my
Oh, I'm glad somebody's watching that. Thank
Oh
you.
my
Matt.
goodness.
Yeah,
I
I have it
forgot
out in the
about it.
corner.
Hey. Somebody said,
Hi
"Hey, Matt."
guys. I'm so sorry. I completely forgot there's a chat component.
See, he's the Matt. I'm the Matt with two T's.
I have one T.
One T. Yeah. We.
Hello, Classic Gamers Guild podcast, and everyone else.
Hello. Hello.
That's awesome.
Hello, we are listening. We are reading. I was going to say listening. That doesn't make sense for a chat.
My
You know
Windows
what's funny
going
about
crazy here?
what's funny about Outlaws is I haven't actually played it. I knew it existed, but I never
Mhm.
played it because I'm never really into first-person shooters. But I watched some of the cutscenes, and in
Yeah.
the very intro, the like inciting incident where the sheriff rides away and leaves his family behind. His wife's like, "Could you get me that stuff in town?" He's like, "What?" And she's like, "Rosewater." And I was like, it's a
Oh.
really
Oh,
eerie coincidence, but it's
Mhm.
completely coincidental.
Yeah, this game looks like a lot of fun. Actually,
Hmm.
I haven't
It's-
ever played it.
Yeah, you have to really be in the mood for a late 90s first-person shooter. It's kind of like Duke Nukem 3D, where it's more puzzly. It's its own.
You're
sort
not
of-
always. I'm always in that mood.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, I think you'd like it then. But it's certainly the. I find it kind of hard to get back to, but I do like the graphic style and the music of it, and that's what I sort of thought of with the
Whoa.
Rosewater.
Hey, that
What the
shit's
hell
Oh.
is that?
Oh, that's Sam and Max. That's a Max.
Oh my God.
He has a little cameo
Oh, that's
Easter
awesome.
egg thing.
I wonder if we could hear the music a little bit.
Maybe.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, a little
Oh,
bit.
barely.
Zoom.
Oh,
All right,
well.
Matt, tell us about this.
Yeah, talk about this and I'll talk about a game I'm working on real quick. Yeah, this book is called The Films of Uwe Boll, Volume 1, the video game movies. So there will be more than one volume. I did this for Moon Books Publishing. And it is a look at, just like the title says, look at Uwe Boll's video game movies. So he started doing these in 2003 with House of the Dead, based off the Sega game where you have the guns and you're shooting the zombies. And he kept on exploiting the video game movie as a sort of trope for 11 films. And I think one of his more infamous examples was In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale, because so that's a mouthful of a title. And with the sequels to that, he didn't have the rights to Dungeon Siege. So he just called it In the Name of the King 2 or In the Name of the King 3, which is rather sneaky. I don't know if I call these all good movies necessarily, but if you're in the mood for something sort of cheesy, I think they can fit the bill. Postal is kind of like an outrageous comedy. It feels more the most like the video game out of all of these. But
In the name of the king.
Is he a
yeah.
big gamer, Uwe Boll?
No, he's not.
Huh.
It just happened to be he was picked to direct House of the Dead, and then it did really well in theaters, not so much, but on home video and DVD, it sold really well. So because of that, he could get financing for these. Oh boy, yeah. So In the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale. I'm never tired of saying that title. It has it has actors like Ray Liotta plays an evil wizard.
Wow.
So that's something. It has John Rhys Davies is in it.
What?
Yeah, the cast is kind of nuts. It has Burt Reynolds is the king.
Wow.
Jason Statham is the lead. He plays a farmer named Farmer. And
I heard that Bruce Reynolds was the first ever Cosmo centerfold.
I know he was one of
Random
them.
factoid. I don't know where
Yeah.
that comes from anyway.
And the special effects in this are a bit dopey, but this was Uwe Boll's highest budget filmed in Canada, like most of his movies. You get the
Ah, sweet.
you get the Lord
That's
of the
probably
Rings.
better than Dungeon Siege 3.
Yeah, that wouldn't be saying much, but yeah, probably. Um,
So
This one
what
is-
makes you want to write about this guy?
yeah, that's a good question. I when I first movie of his that I watched was House of the Dead, and I'm like, gee, there's something here. This is weird. Not all the jokes work. The violence is pretty extreme, but that he made so many video game movies is part of what made it attractive. In that, okay, well, that's a theme I can at least latch on to, and there was just really something to it that he did so many in such a short amount of time. I think, well, there's really something there. So I was inspired to write the book. And this first one took me about a year and a half to write. Volumes 2 and 3 shouldn't take as long. This trailer for House of the Dead is very special. Jürgen Prochnow is in it. Clint Howard is in it. Not a lot of other
Let's see, what
famous-
year was this?
This was 2002, I believe. It came out the same weekend in the U.S. theatrically as the U.S. remake of The Ring, remake of Ringu, titled The Ring. And yeah, it doesn't really, even though it's called House of the Dead, it looks more like a shack. It's on an island where a bunch of college students have a rave and then get killed by zombies. Not everyone is killed, but most of them are.
It's based on a Shakespeare play, right?
That's right, yeah. Shakespeare's The Tempest of Zombies on an Island.
Hmm.
So
Is this true? I heard something about that he gets some kind of tax write-off, or there's something to do with like manipulating the tax. And what country is he? The country that he's from?
he's from Germany. I mean,
Germany. He gets
not-
some kind of like weird federal grant or something to make these movies.
He got something like that to make some of them. Yeah, I don't think he was using laws that were in effect. I'm not sure if it's, I guess you'd call it exploitation. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, he actually made movies, so.
Yeah, I mean, he made movies. He made a lot. He made, around 30 movies or so over maybe like.
Please tell me Rough Tracks has done something with some of these movies.
Rough Tracks must have done some of these things. You see these matrix effects as he's shooting these zombies here. House of the Dead has one of my favorite lines of dialogue from an Uwe Boll movie, which is like, it's in the book. I should really have it pulled up in front of me. But the quote is something like, "Why did you?" Or what is it? Like, this guy says he invented immortality potion that makes you live, an immortality potion. He's like, "Why did you invent this potion?" And the bad guy says, "To live forever." So it's lines of dialogue like that are moving about the human condition. And my analysis of the films, I sort of go through it scene by scene, kind of giving my commentary on it. And it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, I think. Out of the place, Cemetery Dance did a review of it where they called it witless prose. And they also said, "I can't believe we're getting more volumes of this." But so that's something. I think it has its audience.
I was kind of thinking, well, it's ambitious. Volume 1.
Yes.
How many? It's like volumes 2 and 3, and it's like a big, eventually be a whole shelf of books, right?
The reason I didn't mean to do it as volumes initially, but then I thought, well, you see everything as bundles nowadays on Kindle.
God, what a photo, Matt!
Yeah, that looks like I
You're
just
ready
found
for the cabin in the woods there.
It's like the Unabomber photo or something, right? So, and then speaking of game development, I'm making a video game for Uwe Boll. With his producer.
Him.
Yeah, for him, with his producer, Gary Otto, based on an unproduced screenplay by Uwe Boll, Gary Otto, and Ben Woodowis. It will be called, at least as of this recording, Uwe Boll Raw presents President Evil. It's about Donald Trump as an evil alien. I made it with RPG Maker MV. It will be bizarre, but I think people will like it. And it has a lot of cutscenes and stuff, but also has dungeons. And as far as the music, we have a major electro-industrial band once signed to Cleopatra Records set to do the music. So look forward
Is
to
he
that.
going to make a movie based on the game that's you're making? It's
I don't know.
and
That's
then
a
you
good
could
question.
write another book about that.
Well, sure. Well, we'll have to see. Never say never.
Have you met him? Have you met this guy?
I got to interview him over Skype. I haven't met Uwe in person. he was nice to me, but he's also infamous for in the, I think 2005 or so, he did a boxing match
Right.
against 5 of his online critics, and because he used to be an amateur boxer in Germany, beat the shit out of him. So
Yeah.
one of which was a 17-year-old kid. So
Oh, God. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
there's a documentary about that called Raging Bull.
Of course, there
Raging
is.
Bull.
Yeah, BLLL.
Mm,
There's just something kind of, I don't know what to make of this, to be honest. Raging Bull.
what's your favorite
BLLL.
Uwe Boll movie?
That's a
Matt?
good question. Favorite Uwe Boll movie? I like one he did. Only about a third of his output was video game movies. He did about 30 of them. And my favorite is his non-video game one called Heart of America. It's inspired by the Columbine shootings. And that, I think that's part of what attracted me to write about him also, is that he did these video game movies that he's known for, but he did a lot of movies about sort of social justice issues and kind of history and politics, and that the same guy can do both things was a bit different.
Now I'm curious what his oeuvre.
It looks like Classic Gamers Guild podcast said the boxing match against the critics took place in Vancouver, and he was on the short list to challenge it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Rick, is that you? That's scary.
Yeah, I was trying to look at this chat to see if we've got some questions for anybody.
Someone says, "What is this?" I don't know it.
What is this? I like Matt Chet.
It could be
Always
anything.
got the snark. Oh man, challenge. That's surreal. Well, why don't you folks ask each other some questions? That ought to be interesting. So now everybody here's at least played a lot of adventure games, if not designed them. I know one of the early projects that Matt and I had was we were doing going to do a book about graphical adventure games.
Yeah.
We got pretty far along with that, a couple chapters.
A few chapters, and I
Zach
think
McCracken.
I think you came up with the acronym for graphical adventure games, GAG.
Oh.
And when I was trying to
Yeah.
get Ron Gilbert to do an interview, he says that's an appropriate acronym.
Oh.
So
The LucasArts guys used to like naming their engines after bodily fluids and things, so I think they like good acronym, gross sounding acronyms.
Yeah. I guess
what was Armor Scum? I'm like, wasn't that Lucas?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Lucas's.
They had scum, they had phlegm, they had bile.
Oh, I didn't know about those other ones.
Yeah. Those were like internal engine things for different things that they did. I forget what they were for specifically, but yeah. I don't remember if mucus was one or if that was just what they put in Thimbleweed Park.
Mucus phlegm or something?
Yeah, it
Was
was
that
mucus
Yeah.
phlegm in Thimbleweed Park. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of those other ones either.
I guess I'm thinking about, some of the old adventure games I used to play. Maybe the first one I played was like Sierra's The Black Cauldron.
Oh
Did
wow!
you ever play that one?
No,
No.
actually no. Go ahead. Sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I've seen Let's Plays of it, but I don't think I'd ever attempt it. Those AGI, the big pixel, double wide pixel games, seem to be mercilessly difficult, and I've only really played King's Quest 3, and that's that kind of put me off a little bit. But yeah, go on, Francisco.
Oh no, I think I downloaded it once, like way back in the day from like Home of the Underdogs or something, and I think I made it through the first screen, and I was like, nah, I'm not into this.
Who did the game?
Sierra.
Yeah.
Black Cauldron. Al
it's
Lowe, I think,
beautiful.
designed it actually.
Yes, yeah, he did.
Yeah, I don't think it's available digitally.
Oh,
I'd be
not
surprised
legally,
if it
no.
was.
Quest.
Sierra had that license to do all those Disney things. They did a Winnie the Pooh game. They did a Donald Duck Does Math or whatever. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the Mother Goose and
all that artwork.
That EGA palette. Yeah, I mean, this Gold Rush, which you mentioned earlier, was also an AGI game, which also looks mercilessly difficult. All those ones seemed, they were all difficult, but especially those early ones where they're kind of figuring out what they wanted to do with it. It was, I'm scared of them, and I'll only ever watch them, other people play them.
This looks a lot like King's Quest.
It does. I bet maybe they reused some of the
This is
graphics. I
the
don't know, but
cottage, the ancient-
they did
Also-
something with the interface that's a bit minimalist. You don't have to type things in. I think you
Yeah.
just hit the tab key or something and pick some pre-canned actions.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is about where I would die and give up.
Someone in the chat says Goose Game.
Yeah, the original Goose Game.
That's a dragon, isn't it? No.
Alan Quill said that they had a question about Rosewater. So
Oh yeah, let's. I can't seem to bring it up without getting some kind of weird infinite video. So go ahead. If you want to ask the question that they're asking you, by all
Sure.
means.
Sean D says that they're really looking forward to the Crimson Diamond and Rosewater. Thank you, Sean D.
Thank you.
Sean D, ladies and gentlemen.
I have a question for Julia which is kind of piggybacking off a question that I asked at the PAX panel, which is can you talk about how your interest in mineralogy made its way into the Crimson Diamond?
Huh.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I started with the art for the game, and then I was trying to figure out what kind of story I wanted to make. I knew I wanted to make a story in that sort of a classical mystery genre style, where there is just an isolated place, like just one house, basically. Most of the action is going to happen in and around the lodge. And I thought, well, I have to come up with a reason why that would be. Why would there just be a lodge in the middle of nowhere? And so, being a Canadian and knowing that a lot of our towns have sort of their historical founding based on mining or timber or that type of thing, I thought it would be really cool to combine my interest in mineralogy, the rocks and stuff like that, with the setting, and sort of create something that, yeah, I mean, it's a genre thing where you have, diamond this or a sapphire that, this MacGuffin type of object. And then also I have an interest in local history. I like to go to local museums and find out a lot about those places. And it's sort of all those things combined kind of caused me to get here with the idea of putting the minerals in, because it's something I always enjoyed learning about, and it kind of gave me an opportunity to learn more about it. And the more I learned, the more, the puzzles, I could start building puzzles around these things, and sort of fleshing out what that story would have been based on a lot of those other mining towns that I'd mentioned before. Just there is a history there, and so that makes this place kind of believable in that way, because a lot of places did happen this way, where you had a town that went bust and it becomes a ghost town, and then you just kind of stuck with this lodge, this big inn that one of the characters' fathers built. He had this grandiose notion that this was going to be the next big thing, and then when it went bust, everyone else left, and now we've got this nice isolated place where we can have the mystery happen, and hopefully people can recognize those genre conventions and kind of be excited seeing them in this context and sort of an adventure game style thing that they haven't seen for a while or had seen at all. So
Julia, am I wrong in thinking there's a bit of a Psycho
this part is
nod to Psycho here?
It's half a nod to Psycho, and it's half a nod to the Colonel's Bequest, because one of the Colonel's Bequest's most infamous death scenes is a shower scene, just quite a bit like that.
I wonder if they got it from
of course.
Steve, you don't have Colonel's Bequest.
No, that's a GOG game.
Oh yeah, it's on GOG. I have it off GOG. Yeah.
Colonel's. I just remember looking at the box, and there's all kinds of fun stuff in there. It's really one I think you'd probably want to get a box coffee if you could.
Oh, it's amazing. Doug Herring said he was called like the master of like the contrast or dark light and shadow in Sierra. Like he really pumps up the dark shadows, which we don't often think about when we think EGA art. We usually think really cartoony and bright and rainbow colors, but he gets a lot of depth out of those colors. You see these beautiful dusk scenes, and I use a lot of that when I was making the art too, because the game has day and night. So I wanted to create the same scene, but recreate it for day and one version for night. And looking at these greens, you get this beautiful sense of what the lighting was like outside of the plantation. And it was a huge inspiration for me. I have a question for for Francisco about Rosewater. So I know he's done a series of free games called the Ben Jordan series that he had an 8-part series of that. Do you imagine, Francisco, that your setting of Vespuccia, do you think you'll have more games how many games do you think you would set in this world?
That's a good question. The Ben Jordan games, unfortunately, I haven't gotten around to putting them on Steam, but they're on my website, grundislavgames.com, which hopefully won't hit you with any spyware. I've been having some trouble with my website. Anyway, I don't know. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to reload. Sorry.
Oh, Flash.
I have. Ugh, God. I've been having this problem for months, and no matter what I do, it doesn't. Oh God. I'm sorry. This is.
Is this part of the game?
No, it's stupid. It's some PHP
wow, can't even
malware
go
that's
back.
on my. Are you serious? Oh my God.
That is a nasty thing.
I've ruined your computer. I'm sorry. Well, it doesn't matter. They're on my website. Don't go. What?
Oh, I did win something. That's
good. Great.
All right, let's try it. So what's the secret to get in there?
Usually when it happens for me, I just you know what it probably is. Just go to the Lamplight City one down there.
Yeah,
it might
maybe I
be
can
a thing where it's like
select it.
faking Google. Yeah, there you go.
There we
All right,
go.
and then you can go up to the Ben Jordan tab up there. Yeah, it was a 8-part series of freeware games I made from about 2004 to 2012 before I went commercial. So yeah, the Vespuccio world that I've sort of created for Lamplight City, and now I'm expanding in Rosewater. Yeah, I've thought about doing more games in that world. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do like 8 games, but I don't know, maybe a couple more. We'll see.
I'm just looking at chat here, and we've got Francisco, a Classic Gamers podcast, Guild podcast, says, the games you've made and released so far, which is your favorite and why?
That's always a hard question. It's like picking your kids, right? It's which one's the best? I don't know.
Is it really so hard?
Yeah, no, it's so I have to say that A Golden Wake is probably one of my most personal ones. But it's also the one that I'm harshest on because it was my first commercial game and it has a lot of flaws, and I'm constantly wishing I could go back and redo it with like all of the stuff I know now, or I've learned along the way. It's basically it's like Julia. I'm very interested in local history. I grew up in South Florida, and so I made a game about a real estate agent during the 1920s Florida land boom. Yeah. It's not all about real estate. Other stuff happens. It's basically a rise and fall story. And
oh, that was an impressive scene back there.
No,
the
thanks.
dancing?
That was my big ambitious rotoscoping scene of that game was the dancing scene. And some people in the chat are saying they liked the Golden Wake. Thank you. I'd say it probably is one of my favorites because I got to make a game about something I really. I mean, not to say that any of my other games are not about stuff I enjoy, but like this one in particular, I was, it was a niche within a niche. Oh God, the airplane puzzle. I'm sorry about that one. But here's a gratuitous nudity. Cover your eyes, everybody.
Oh my goodness!
Oh no. So,
Mommy, Daddy, I have questions.
It's got something for everyone. It's got planes, it's got butts, it's got dancing.
Butts.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, look, and there. But anyway, yeah, that's probably one of my favorites. I mean, I was happy with.
Great.
No, thanks. I was happy with Lamplight. I mean, I've been happy with all my games. I enjoyed Shardlight, even though it's a little too real right now.
So what's going on with this airplane?
So this is a puzzle where you have to get this lady you're helping with this lady's stunt show. This was a real woman who existed, Mabel Cody. She was the niece of Buffalo Bill, allegedly. And she used to run these air shows for like advertising purposes. So the puzzle is basically you're supposed to like get her onto the plane as it swoops in, and you have to like move the car around to the right spot, and then you have to like put the roof up so that she loses her footing when she gets on the plane. So the trick is you have to put the top of the car up so that she can like put her foot on it to balance herself up. But the way
classic Sierra style puzzles right there.
Well, the way I coded it, unfortunately, when the plane swoops in, you lose control of the mouse. So a lot of people would be like clicking frantically and not responding, and it's kind of timer based. So I've since fixed it, but unfortunately, it hasn't been updated. So there's a fixed version.
You're still getting hate mail.
Yeah, basically. Well, I was going to say something real self-deprecating, but I'm not going to.
Good for you.
Love your games.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed with all of this. I mean, wow.
Well,
even the website looks nice once you get past the.
Once you get past the spyware crap.
Is that Bigfoot?
That's a skunk ape. That is the
skunk ape.
That is the Florida skunk ape. Again, starting close to home.
Ape.
Yes.
The skunk ape.
Yeah. It's the Bigfoot.
Okay, you got to tell me what the skunk ape is. That's
the Bigfoot is, or the skunk ape is the Bigfoot of the Florida Everglades, and it's unique in that it smells bad. That's why it's called the skunk ape. I've been to the Skunk Ape Research Center in Ochope, Florida, and I got a small pamphlet that was drawn or written, not illustrated by, but written by the skunk ape head researcher. And there's these amazing drawings in it of like a skunk ape just doing things in the Everglades. Like, here's the skunk ape building a nest. Here's the skunk ape hiding behind a tree to avoid a passing airboat. It's one of the best things I think I have in my collection.
So is a skunk ape more likely than Bigfoot, or is there?
It's like the cousin of Bigfoot, basically. Although there's a lot of the Everglades are flat. It's a lot of flat lands and open marshy spaces. So I would think that there aren't that many trees for a Bigfoot to hide behind.
You know, I went to University of South Florida.
Really?
And I never heard of a skunk ape. Skunk ape, I don't feel like I got my money's worth.
No, definitely
PhD.
You didn't.
I mean, they didn't cover this. Yeah. Man, I can't believe there's 8 of these. And all of this is free, just giving this away?
Yep. Well, I mean, they're not, I mean, you get what you pay for.
Hey, wait a second. I've played all of these and they're all lovely and they're very inspiring.
I'm glad. Well, that's very kind of you.
Which is your favorite one, Julie?
I'm very glad.
I like, let's see what we have here. I like, well, the horror at number 50 is like based in a house. So I've kind of got a soft spot for that one, Yeah, I know what I like. I do like that one because it's got a lot of like the stages of the game are cool, and like the same kind of thing I'm doing with the Crimson Diamond, where stuff happens and then time passes and some more stuff happens and you're following in this one house through that whole developing story. So I did enjoy that quite a bit.
Oh, this one's in London.
Yeah, the thing I tried doing with the Ben Jordan games was rather than be like a monster of the week, like, oh, this one's about werewolves, this one's about zombies. I tried to have the things be based on like actual supposed urban folklore stuff. So everything is more, with the exception of Scourge of the Sea People, which is about like, I guess it kind of is a little bit about Greek mythology, but most everything is based on actual quote unquote real paranormal phenomenon.
So did you go to these places as part of your research?
Some of them, not all, but I mean, I grew up in Florida, so I had the skunk ape thing. I didn't do the Lost Galleon I didn't go to Scotland, and I've been to London and I've been to in front of number 50, but I haven't gone inside because it's a bookshop, a privately owned bookshop. I did go to Greece, but I haven't been to Rome. And I haven't been to Japan. So no, I haven't been to a lot of the places.
So Matt, you were saying you're interested in maybe taking a look at Adventure or ACG.
Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking of what Julia was saying with the 16 color EGA, AGI titles.
AGA.
AGI,
What did I say?
yeah.
I don't even know what I said.
It's really something where there's something delightfully obtuse, and you have that combination of the text adventure thing where you're trying to guess what verb and what to type in. But then you have like the really poor kind of arcade challenges. And I think if I was to develop something, I might make a game that was irritating on purpose. I was highly amused.
Irritating on purpose.
Yeah, I was highly amused by the game that came out a few years ago called Stair Quest. Did you play that one?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Matt?
Stair Quest?
You have to watch this. This is a riot.
Like
Yeah.
stairs?
Yes. Quest.
Is that it? Stairs? Or is it something else?
No,
Yeah.
that's it. Stair Quest.
I don't know if it's on
Steam,
Yeah.
but if you Google it, you can find it.
Stair
Even
Quest.
the cover artwork is
Yes.
pretty amazing.
Yep.
What is
It's that
this?
first link, yeah. That one, No More for Today production.
I watched a Let's Play of it. I didn't play it because it was too horrifying.
It's really
Oh,
hard.
I think I'm already starting to get the joke here.
Yeah, well, not only that, I think it's like 10 screens, but then when you reach the top, you have to go all the way back to the bottom. So you have
Must
to
be a
do
trailer
all the
of this.
stairs in reverse. There should be if not, there's a lot of Let's Plays, that's for sure.
Yeah, you remember when we were writing that book, we were trying to play all those old Sierra games. And even if you had the walkthrough,
Oh, it's still hard, yeah.
man, you still was like spending like forever trying to get the guy. Oh, if you get, I think it was like a vine or something you had to climb, like a beanstalk in one of them.
In the King's Quest 1, yeah, a Beanstalk.
Oh my God.
There was also, I remember one that we played, we would do kind of like shared screen or chats or something as we were doing it, but it was a adventure
Should
game
I
about the
do this?
Amazon, and it was written and designed by Michael Crichton. Do you remember that, Matt?
Oh, he's the Jurassic Park guy.
Yeah, but like he actually designed the game himself, and it was the plot of almost what would become the book Congo later on. It was very, yep.
Oh, what one was that? I don't. Sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, we played a little bit of it, but it was, it's just so
Ah.
it's so mean. The whole
Thank
game
you for
is-
playing.
Next time, be more careful. Oh, it's
Oh, like-
extraordinarily mean.
Is this a game for sale?
It's just for free. I don't think there's a paid copy.
You never know when something quirky like this will just take off and go viral, and like that. What was the goat clicker or whatever that thing was? That
Cookie Clicker? No.
it was like goats or sheep or
Goat.
something.
Oh, Goat
Oh,
Simulator?
Goat Simulator.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
some wacky thing, but I guess it was kind of. Yeah, this guy's not having any luck.
I mean, one game I played recently that's sort of different that I would recommend is
like going like. tick,
yeah, 2 steps and he dies. Has
Oh.
any of you checked out the game Not for Broadcast?
Oh, I've heard
I've
of
heard
it.
of it. It's
Yeah,
an FMV.
it's
yeah.
on Steam. It's in open beta or whatever they call that on
Mm.
Steam.
hmm
And the prologue is free, but it's kind of like Papers, Please, except you're in a video production studio, and they increasingly make the play mechanics more complicated. And so you switch between cameras. I forget if it's like a prime minister or something, but what political guy it's focusing on will change the plot depending on what camera time you give them.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the interface right there.
Wow.
They've only made a few chapters, but I played that and I'm like, wow, that's really inspired. That's a different way to do.
So they're
I don't
using
know if
full
you-
motion video in this.
a lot of full motion video, high definition. It's made in England, so because of the accents, the acting seems better.
Seems
That's
better.
a clever trick. Wow, this looks really interesting.
Yeah, so the
What's this?
prologue
Not for
is
broadcast. So what's
Yep.
the deal? It's not
it's early
early
access,
access.
but the prologue demo chapter is for free, so I'd recommend people check that one out.
Delightfully goofy. Yeah, PC Gamer. I saw you guys had some great comments from them too, right? Was that on? Thought I saw a comment from PC Gamer on one of these.
Mm.
All right, anyway, got about 5 minutes. Do you have any more questions from the audience that we want to tackle here?
I saw somebody ask something before of Julia. What is your favorite text-based adventure?
Right. Well, it's not King's Quest 3 because that was a stress fest. See, there was a question on the panel that we didn't get to in Boston for PAX East about the tropes in games that we don't like.
Right.
And the one I was going to address was that whole ticking clock element type of thing, and how horrifying and stressful that is. So no, it wasn't King's Quest 3. I don't want to sound like I'm being unoriginal, but I actually do think it's the Colonel's Bequest, because of the way they approached the game design. It was different from the stuff that had come before. It was more story based, it was more narrative driven, and that you could kind of just get through that game and not know anything and get an ending. It might not be the best ending, but based on what you understand in the game, there's at the end of the game they've got like a little pop quiz where you're supposed to sort of figure out who did what and when and why and all the other investigative bits.
Hold on just a second. I'm gonna get my copy.
You've inspired him.
It's good that way, because it was not about being stuck necessarily. It was about exploration and interrogation, and it kind of lets you get through it for the most part. So I kind of like that style. You could still die, but it wasn't as unforgiving, and it wasn't as basically it just wasn't as difficult puzzle wise as the other stuff. So I will say I do have an affection for both the art and the gameplay of that one.
And there's a lot of endings in that one, right?
There are, I think there's two. I mean, there's two major endings, I think, but there might be slight differences based on how you actually ended it. I know the sequel had some minor ending differences based on stuff you did, but Colonel's Bequest may only have two. I'm not actually 100% sure.
Just looking at some of the packets. I mean, they did such. Look at this. This is something I really miss about these older games. I mean, you get like the sleeve, and I like the way
beautiful.
Roberta Williams got her name on there too, like it's a like it's a novel or something. Very.
It looks like a book cover. That one.
Book
actually.
cover,
yeah.
I always find it interesting how
protection. I think, right? You have to hold this poster up, and it's Misty Acres Plantation. Yeah, I think there's
got a map.
Yeah, but I think this side here used the. I'm probably violating some kind of. They will be able to correct. And it's like 100 discs in here. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, both the floppies and both sides of the floppies, which is another great thing we don't have to worry about anymore with digital distribution. The technical difficulty of getting them on those things, and also just the warehousing, the distribution, the manufacturing. I can't. It would have been impossible. I can't even imagine.
And then they would warn you, like, make copies. That's the reason they have all this weird copy protection in here, right? So you can make a copy, because these discs wouldn't last very long. You know,
they get demagnetized and everything.
Demagnetized and usually right about the time you're ready to beat the game, and whoops. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Tell me about all these fun games.
Oh, there is one more question if you can do one real quick, because it's a question for everyone from Classic Gamers Guild podcast. What are some of the most underappreciated and undiscovered adventure games of the past decade? I don't think just I'll name things.
Underappreciated? Pretty much all of them, right?
True. That's true. We'll go with that.
I'm going to be terrible and confess that I don't really play adventure games very much these days, but I did really like a game called Paradigm, which came out a few years ago. It's a sort of wacky comedy about, it's really hard to describe. It's about a failed artificial person who has tumors and is living in this like fake Eastern European country, and he is being antagonized by an evil sloth that vomits candy bars.
You say evil sloth?
Yes. He's an evil sloth in a chair with a wig that looks suspiciously like Donald Trump's, and he's like crossbred with a vending machine or something.
What's the name of this?
Paradigm. It's great. It's made by this Australian guy named Jacob Generica, and it's genuinely funny, which is really a rarity in comedy games, I feel.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, nice.
Huh.
Oh my.
Yeah, and more people need to play it, I feel.
Starring Paradigm. Oh, there's a
What?
sloth.
Yep. Olaf, see, he vomits
Oh my
candy.
goodness.
What in the hell?
That's really something.
Yeah,
I
surreal.
guess, yeah,
Mhm.
thinking of that question, I played one, I got a review copy of Dropsy.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Dropsy was
That
great
is
too.
profoundly disturbing despite the graphic style.
It's
I think I
such
just
a.
saw a pug on that other game.
There
So what
was
is
a.
this one, Matt? Dropsy.
You play as this creepy clown man, and it has this minimalist sort of interface that reminds me of like the not very good adventure games of the 90s, like Wayne's World or Beverly Hillbillies. I forget the developer of those old ones, but it's just you have this character that is ugly and he burns down like a circus in the beginning. He's not a nice guy, but then you feel sympathetic for him despite him being kind of a monster and gross. It's really, I don't know. It's just really unexpected. And fun animations too. Fun animations, fun
Mhm.
character designs.
That is. I wonder if that was this one done with the AGS.
No, I think that's Unity.
That's trippy.
Yeah, it's a good word for it.
It's the same guy that did Hypnospace Outlaw more recently.
Oh,
which
Jay
is a lot of
Tholen.
fun. Yeah, Jay
right?
Tholen, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like funny, but at the same time, you'd think you'd probably have nightmares. A hug venture, a point and click hug venture.
Yep.
Cool.
Who did this? Must be a real character.
He's like the sweetest guy. And the thing is, Dropsy is misunderstood. Like he's this
Yes.
creepy, horrible clown, but all he wants to do is hug
That's
people.
all he wants.
But it has a
And
some of that-
they're all afraid of him because
That's
he's
right.
Yeah, I don't want. Oh, there's a garden gnome. Well,
there's a
Dog-
dog.
that dog
that can
just pee on the
things.
garden gnome.
He did.
Yeah, the dog has a dedicated pee function.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
It's a great game. Oh, he
I mean,
twerks too.
Look at all the stuff that's going on. I mean, I was just saying on Twitter the other day, there's all this stuff happening with adventure games these days.
Yep.
I mean, look at all this
Mhm.
innovation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we just played my wife and I just played the latest Nancy Drew game. They finally come out with a new one of those after long hiatus. All right, I think that we're probably, are we at the time? Yes, we are at the time. So thank you all. Now, folks, if you're watching this, you saw the links there on Steam. We've got Rosewater, the Crimson Diamond, which went away. Let me, or you can get Dropsy too while you're at it.
Sure.
The Crimson Diamond and Matt's book is the films. I don't think I've been pronouncing this guy's name right.
Uwe Boll.
How do you say it? The first name?
Uwe. Yep.
Uwe Boll, Volume 1. It's the first volume in what will probably be 30 book set.
I'd say 32, but
32
pretty
volumes,
close.
somewhere in that ballpark. But anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. I hope to have a new episode out here pretty soon. And anyway, go have a happy rest of your Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
All
Thanks for the
right.
chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I stopped the stream. I will stop the chat. Everybody okay with that? The way that went?
That was good. It was
Yeah, that
really
was
good.
Thank
It
you.
was
That was
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. Have a good night.
All right.
Yep.
You
Good
too.
night.
Right.